Setswana ga se fele, go fela ba ba se buang. Setswana can never cease to exist, only those who speak it. My name is Serai Lobelo. I was born in a place that is no longer on the map and now exists in my work and can be traced online. I began my artistic journey in Boputatswana at a community center called Mabana. I cut my teeth professionally in publishing at a magazine called Wanted, Business Day's Wanted magazine, which is very instrumental in what happens after. So it's where I got inducted or introduced formally to the industry of luxury. It was about understanding the power of words and the single image. When it came to Africa, it seemed like it was just this one blanket statement. And even the advertising that paired with it became a bit difficult to pair next to symbols of African luxury. I registered my first creative consultancy called Lobelo Creative Lab. My purpose was to create production quality that could help black-owned brands position themselves for global audiences. During COVID, we were told that as advertising, I guess, or as marketers, we were non-essential, and that really struck a chord with me. To realize that all of that hard work, the 10 years that I'd put into positioning and all of these things did not matter when it came to life and death. And living in my grandparents' farmhouse, where they are no longer present, all I had were the memories that I could access through my dreams. And this brings us to Ditoro Studios. The word Ditoro means dreams in Setswana, but dreams also as an institution of learning. So from my research, there are two streams of information dissemination, right? There is academic pursuits, which is kind of learning that you do with your eyes open. And then there's dreaming, which is learning in a non-linear way with your eyes closed, right? But open somewhere else. So Ditoro is also a metaphor for how the world of luxury sells a dream, but creates products that are the most accessible point to that dream. And Ditoro Studios is about digitizing our indigenous knowledge in order to create narratives that inform our craft. And through our craft, we then can create new institutions through communication in the arts, contemporary art, design, fashion, even architecture. So technology and information or communication is changing. So I do really wonder about like the role and how this information will be passed on to the next generation or if it gets lost. So Ditoro Studios is really about the pursuit of crafting narratives, because every time we lose an elder, we lose a library, we lose an institution coming from oral traditions. I digitize those indigenous knowledge systems and create a new visual lexicon and new user interface and user experience designs for that information to connect with audiences that are not interested in reading books but are interested in learning. So my work is very symbolic in that I use symbols that are informed by the indigenous. The art, the stuff behind me is a series that I did with, as part of the R&B, Rand Merchant Bank's Talent Unlocked 2024. And it was the first time that I was able to expand into using fabric as a medium instead of paint. And I mean, what's important about this fabric is that I haven't had a consistent place, so I don't have a studio. And creating, I generally work in large scale, but if I had to paint the way that I wanted to paint, I'd have to keep the work in a fixed position. But working with fabric and layering and assembling what I'm doing is almost reminiscent of what I do with Photoshop or, design tools where I can add layers, remove layers. I consider these luxury fabrics because, felt is what you use to make coats. And coats are coats and blankets are kind of tied into like ceremonial practices, like when you pay your lobola, you honor the family with like a head of the family with like a coat, some warmth, or a blanket. So yes, the work is a visual lexicon that speaks about the first people, the Basara, who I am descendant of, and how I look at the contemporary world through the lens of a modern Mosara and what I am digitizing for future generations. So yeah, it's a layered, multi-angular way that I approach my work, depending on the theme, depending on the intention, depending on the subject matter, and sometimes all of these things come together because of a specific exercise. So I've always been drawn to allegorical works, right? Symbolic works, where it's a form of coded imagery, and creating your own language. I've always had a change agenda, I guess. The language of symbols is important to me because, for one, I've gone to the things that take me directly into those spaces, like the hides. The hides speak about royalty, they speak about chieftaincy, and generally they are totems of specific nations, right? So the chief, king, and the president at the time of the place that I grew up in wore the hide of this animal. Another type of symbol that you'll see a lot of in my work is the horns of the tolo, or the greater antelope. It's a mammoth of a beast, but it's the totem associated with the barolong. Right? The color blue speaks to the rain, the water, the bula, and the browns and the whites and the creams are the hide of the tolo. But it also speaks to, the earth. Purple represents royalty. Yellow the sun, the people of the sun. Sun also as a I could go on a tangent. So I'm working on an exciting new project called Peruse Africa. And the word peruse, speaks to the pace at which the content should be experienced. To peruse is to take something at a leisurely pace. In a world where we gulp our content, we take our content in shots. Peruse Africa is looking at feeding into these three audiences through touch, auditory, and visual mechanics. So Peruse Africa is an on-demand, shoppable video platform that converts indigenous oral tradition into contemporary products in design, art, fashion, architecture, where you're able to shop everything that's in the frame. So this allows us to expand this conversation outside of just art spaces into luxury experiences that are meaningful. And that's the platform that I'm working on right now, where an episode of Peruse would allow you to shop exclusive work, to meet the people who are shaping the world of African luxury and whose luxuries we're creating in Africa.